You're listening to She's the Business podcast. Now, if you feel you've been hardwired to seek out approval, permission, praise, and compliments from others, then it's very likely that you would identify with the common traits of the people pleaser. And in today's episode, we are identifying the hidden trap of the people pleaser identity, how to recognize your inner people pleaser, and how to rewire those subconscious traits and instincts so that you can find easier and better success as the leader, as the owner of your own small business. So stay tuned. This is a juicy one you're absolutely not going to want to miss. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and over the last 25 years in marketing and business, I've helped many brands to launch, scale, and grow, with some of them becoming multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm here to inspire you to get out of your own way and create a profitable, fulfilling business while living the lifestyle you really desire, without all the hustle. So I bring you She's the Business podcast, a unique blend of strategies, tactics, mindset, health, and spirituality, literally everything you need to be the successful leader of your dream business. Made by women for women, this is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. My guest today, Michele Kasl, has a 20-year career in the dynamic area of branding and design. Her vast design and creative direction expertise includes website design and development, UI, UX design, AI tools, branding, print, all of the things. As you can imagine, over 20 years. She was what's known as a creative suite master back in the day when, Adobe was a program that you had on a disk and you had to upload into your computer. So she has been at the forefront of shaping identities across diverse industries for a very long time. And she brings to us today so much depth of insight and understanding of the classic creative mind and how she's been able to work with and leverage the strengths of the creative, and also to understand the people pleaser side of it, and how to really rewire her thinking around it so that she could have a successful business, which clearly is very successful, because she's been doing it for over 20 years now. So without further ado, I would love to introduce to you my gorgeous guest, the lovely Michele. Let's play the interview for you now. All right. So I am here with the lovely Michele Kasl. Michele, welcome to She's the Business podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. So early in your morning.
I know. And my voice still hasn't quite warmed up, even though I've been up now for a few hours. But, we've been at swimming squads and the kids have been getting ready for school. And now here we are, which is where I want to be, having this lovely conversation. Because Michele is just a beautiful soul. We connected, I think, via threads, and then we chatted and we're like, we have to do a podcast episode. There's so many synchronicities, I think, in our approach into business and how we think about it. But Michele, would you like to tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do, before we dive in and talk about the hidden traps of people pleasers?
Yes. So thank you for such a kind intro and for just inviting me and having me on. My name is Michele Kasl. I've had my digital agency now for 20 years, which is insane to say sometimes. It's been an interesting journey. Not the same agency it was when I started 20 years ago, but we're based out of Fort Myers, Florida, which is on the west coast of Florida. So definitely we used to be in the Northeast and got away from the snow. That was not for us. But our main focus is in helping business experts show their expertise online through their branding, their website, and their messaging. That's what I am passionate about. Yes, amazing. And,
we've talked and you've done a lot of website work. I think you're a real creative, and in your bio you say you're a creative suite master because you've been in this game for so long. Obviously back in the day it was you do Adobe or you don't do anything. Like there was no other options, right?
Right, 100%.
Mm.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about when it was actually you had to buy the product like a physical disc and put it in your computer. And now everything's cloud-based and
Yeah.
subscription. But even the tools, I used 20 years ago have completely
Yeah.
changed, like you said.
Yeah, they absolutely have. But it's great. There's been such an evolution. And I think as creatives, there is so much more that's really just at your fingertips now. There used to be a lot more that was sort of locked down and I think harder to access. But yeah, you would know a
Hmm.
lot about that in terms of, you know, when you're a creative professional, one of the things is adaptability, right? And I think you named it like chameleon skills. So talk to us about,
Yes.
the benefit of that. And then also, when does that become something that's potentially not so positive for you, like your insight into your business
Yeah.
and your growth?
Yeah, I mean, being in the creative space, being in marketing, you're you're trying to impress, you're trying to please, you're trying to get attention, and you're molding yourself and your designs and even your words and techniques around what you think
Mm,
other people will like. And so it's an amazing trait to have to be able to adapt. I think of the chameleon changing
yes.
colors, on the
Hmm.
different backgrounds. We actually have chameleons down here
Oh,
in
wow.
Florida. They're super cool. Yeah. But they blend into the trees or they blend into the
Mm,
trunk of the tree. And I was just thinking about that, and it's great to be able to do that, but not at the expense of
yeah.
yourself. And a lot of times I'm so focused on what other people think, what other people want. Is this going to work for my
Mm,
client? Are we doing the right thing for the client? Just the other day, I was talking to my husband, and he's like, "Well, what do you want for dinner?" And I couldn't answer him,
wow.
and that's
Mm,
weird because you kind of lose sight of you kind of
yes.
defer. What do you want?
Yeah.
What would make you
Yeah.
happy? And I find myself doing that in my everyday
Yeah.
life, in addition to
Yeah, and I
business.
think it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Because your business and what you have been doing and training in for so long is creating designs for clients, right? So for the client to be
Hmm.
happy, you need to provide what it is that they're looking for. But every client is going to be different. So you're doing one thing over here with one, then another thing with another. And you build this ability to really quickly adapt from, right, well, this client's brand is
Hmm.
very masculine and heavy and bold and brash. So we're going to do those sort of designs. And then this one over here is a lot more softer and feminine, and we want liveliness. And you would adapt, your design skills. You're going to produce very different outputs. And so in your work,
Hmm.
that skill of being able to adapt is absolutely critical. And I have seen and known of designers before where I'm like, I don't give them that type of work because they literally, it is not their style and they can't adapt. So there are some that have a very
Yeah.
specific type of style they do, and I'd be like, well, I will give them that work but not this other kind of brand because they just can't deal with it.
Hmm.
Whereas you sound like you are the type of designer who can literally be the chameleon, like change colors and be bold and do those sort of designs and then change completely, and do something at the other end of the spectrum. But the challenge, like when you're thinking about it from the business owner point of view, then now you're marketing your own business. What do you do?
Oh
Because you're
gosh.
like,
Yeah.
I don't have a
Yeah.
client telling me what it should be or how it should look. And you're so used to taking and being able to adapt to their vision, their wants, their needs, and
Hmm.
how they're wanting it to be, that I think that could be where your biggest challenge comes from, because it's so easy. And I think, sorry, I know I'm going on a complete rant here and I want to hear your
Yeah.
opinion. I'm like, I'm tuning into it because I know as a female entrepreneur, it's hard for all of us to quiet that external voice. And, it's so easy to be looking out. You only have to literally open your laptop, open your phone, you start scrolling and you're noticing what other people are doing. Women, we're so visual and we're
Yep.
very intuitive and we're very aware of others. And so you're seeing all that stuff and you start to kind of lose a sense of yourself. The more you're doing it, the more you're comparing. Whereas I think for you, that must be actually on the extreme level, because you literally do that as your work, is you adapt and change. So talk to us a bit about that. Like, can
Yeah.
you place a boundary in your head where you go, right, now I'm in CEO mode of my own business, or now I'm the marketing director for me? You've almost,
It's
yeah.
very hard. It's very hard. No, it is. And I feel like also finding the time and the mental energy to put forth that creative, the same creative energy that we put forth for our
Yeah.
clients, to invest that in our own
Mm.
business is extremely challenging. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Thinking about marketing Premier Designs, our
Mm.
company, super intimidating. But give me anyone else's business and I can come up with 5, 10, 15 different ideas.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly why that is. But for business owners, I think the hardest thing to do is to actually look at your own
Yes.
business with a neutral
Yeah.
perspective and not comparing it to everything else that's out there. I call that shiny object
Oh,
syndrome,
yeah.
where you're just
Yeah.
chasing the latest trend,
Yes.
latest color palette, latest
Yeah.
whatever.
And you will always be
Um,
chasing it because there'll always be a new one. Like,
yeah,
I remember when
yeah,
I started out in this business, and obviously I had a long background in marketing, but I'd be seeing people posting in groups going, oh, what do you think about this color palette? And it was like always blush and gold, and the
yeah,
browns were in there. And I was like, you're just following a trend. Like, if you want to actually create a brand that is your brand of your business and not be changing it every year to whatever's the latest, which is a lot of work, and you're just going to spend all the time in the background doing all this back end work, like, you actually need to discover your own brand essence, and then how that then comes
yeah.
out visually. Like, what is it that makes you you? What are the colors that really speak to your values and who you want to be, that are not going to change in 2 months' time when there's some new trend that's out there? But like, I knew that because of the experience of obviously understanding branding,
Mm-hmm.
and why you don't want to be changing it all the time. But so many people new in business, I think it's really hard for that initial piece of like, well, what should we look like? Who do we want to be? And that's why it's so important to have
Mm-hmm.
that structure behind the decisions. Like, what are the decisions you need to make? It can be easy to do once you have the structure, and and you go through the process, right?
Right. And it is a process. I mean, it definitely, it is a process
Mm.
that requires, I mean, even for established companies, we do brand clarity
Yeah.
intensives where we sit down and talk about all the things that no one's really, talked
Yeah.
about ever since they started the business, because you get
Yes.
busy. I mean, you can't do everything, and clients and
Yeah.
customers, they're always going to be the
Yeah.
priority. So all this like internal stuff, oh, we'll do that
Yeah.
later. We'll do that later. And then you
Yeah.
realize, oh, yeah, probably should
Yes.
prioritize how we're showing up,
Absolutely.
what our website looks
And the
like.
more different cooks
Yeah.
that you have, like, the more, you know, the less guidelines, the longer it goes on for, and the more different people involved, the brand can
Yep.
really easily morph into something that you're like, wow, over here, our website looks like this, but then the ads and the social media
Yep.
looks totally different. And it can be so easy to get into that place where the brand comes fragmented, and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have that
Mm-hmm.
cohesion. But don't be hard on yourself if that's been something that's happened, because it is very normal, and it's a kind of an evolutionary part of the business. But it's like Michelle said, at that moment, what you want to go, oh, okay, we've now noticed that we've become out of, we've broken
Mm-hmm.
out of the mold. We're not consistent. We're not showing up consistently. That's a great time to come back in and tighten it up.
Yeah. And sometimes you need an outside
Mm,
perspective to really hone in on what's not working,
exactly.
because it's also
Mm.
not solely about what you
No.
like as the
Yeah.
business owner. We try to remind our clients of that. You're like, well, I don't like green, or whatever it is. But like, well, it's not only about you. You really have to think about the people you're trying
Mm,
to serve and attract, and what's going to resonate with
yeah.
them. It can't just be about your favorite colors and your favorite images and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It has to be more than that. And so we've found that sometimes playing like referee, especially when there's a team
Mm.
involved, it helps because we play the neutral
Yeah.
party. We are just leading and guiding and discussing,
Mm.
and eventually everyone comes back to the middle, and it's a really cool thing
Yeah.
to see. But I don't think they could get there on their own.
No, that's right. And it is partly, it's like, oh, I don't like green, but it's like, but green is not there in isolation. It is part of a much
Mm-hmm.
bigger piece that you need to be able to stand back. And like green signifies different things, right? So of course you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at color palettes. It's like, well, what is it that you want your
Mm-hmm.
business to be about, and people would feel or think about you? Then green actually may be the most effective way of communicating that, or having green included in
Mm-hmm.
your brand palette might be very strategic for that reason. So it's,
Right.
it is being able to help coach people through, which, you do so well. And I always find it so much fun, but interesting how people respond
Yeah,
and
we
react. I've seen some people go, I really want this. They've done some design on their website and they were really attached to it. And you look at it and you're just like, oh my goodness, like that is just an affront on the
it's
eyes. Like
hard.
it is. And how do
Yeah.
we go past
Well,
this?
part of what we do is we actually sit them down and with a list of
Mm,
adjectives, like professional, clever, creative, all these adjectives. Pick three. What three do you want people to feel when they experience your
mm-hmm.
brand, whether that's visually or in words? And then we compare that to their logo, their existing website, and usually there is a massive, massive
Yeah.
disconnect
Yeah.
between where they say they
Mm-hmm.
want to be and where they are. And so, kind of pairing those um, aspirational
Mm-hmm.
words with what they currently have, it's kind of an aha moment for a lot of
Yeah.
businesses. Like, oh, yeah, I see it now. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like going back to what you said before, like, why is it so hard to, do this for your own business and your own brand? And creatives, I think, especially struggle with this. And, when you look at, we were talking about the adaptability skill, being able to adapt and really take on the client's vision and brief and put
Mm-hmm.
yourself in their shoes, and then you can do it again for someone else and someone else. It's also the other part of what makes you a really great service provider who gets great results for clients is this ability to like be really invested in what they think and
Mm-hmm.
pleasing them. I think we've got as our title for this episode, the
Mm-hmm.
hidden traits of people pleasers. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, the
Yeah.
best people pleasers often also get the highest client satisfaction because you're so invested in that satisfaction result. And that actually is one of the things that could be on the flip side, making it really hard to make some decisions around your own business and branding, because
Mm-hmm.
you're like, in the back of your mind, even subconsciously, you're probably thinking, but what will people like? So how do
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
find, as obviously living and breathing in that, what are some of the things that you can do to help yourself shift out of that mode, like turn off the people pleaser for a moment and think, well, I want to make a decision around my business and branding, website. Clearly you want to resonate with the audience, but there's a fine line, isn't there, between it trying to make it pleasing to everyone versus being strategic and
Mm-hmm.
actually being impactful and powerful because you've made a good decision.
Yeah, it is a very fine line to walk. And I mean, I've been a people pleaser by nature. I think a lot of creatives are. A lot of people in creative
Mm-hmm.
careers have also been people pleasers to some degree because it's kind of a performance. You're putting yourself out there. You're putting your work out there for judgment. And the tough thing is like when you link your self
Mm.
worth to the praise of others,
Mm.
then you're dependent on your next compliment,
Yeah.
and that's really hard to wrestle with in your brain. In my brain, I'll speak in the first person because I know it so
Mm.
well. But you really do have to think about your motivation. Why am I making these
Mm.
decisions? And the thing that helps me the most is not doing the comparison
Yeah.
stuff on our own business. Now, we do a lot of research, and we do research for our own business as well. But when it comes to, it's a very personal thing when you're working on your
Yeah.
own business. And so, not comparing yourself, oh, well, they're a much bigger firm, or they do such slick animations in Webflow, and we don't do that. You start getting into those like
Mm.
comparison marks, and shutting that part off for
Mm-hmm.
me is the most helpful, and really just honing in on, okay, this is what we do best. We do these things best, and it's a result of expertise, hard work, and effort, and our case studies and our results speak for
Yeah.
themselves. Lean on that
Mm.
and say, what would it take to get more of like this particular
Mm.
client or this particular result? And so that's the headspace that I try to exist in, especially when I'm working on our
Yeah,
business.
absolutely. Yeah, you've like turned off this need or desire to please people, because when you
Mm-hmm.
are doing your own business, marketing, branding, how you're going to put yourself out there, it is literally not to for someone else to say I like it or don't like it. Like, who cares, right? But it's like this
Yeah, yeah.
inbuilt like almost reaction or natural tendency to think that you want people to be pleased. But what you just said, it's like you're stepping out of that place of the need for approval into a place
Mm-hmm.
of personal power, where you're like, center in
Yeah.
on our credibility, the work that you've done, the
Yes.
testimonials, the results, and really like, who are we? Who is it that we are? It doesn't matter what that other company's doing and what they're great at. That's
Right.
their business. It's not yours. Like, it's none of my business what they're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And I think
And it's helpful to reread the testimonials and the
yes,
case studies
yeah,
too. Like hearing it from your client's
mm-hmm.
perspective, it really, for me anyway, it really centers me around the why
Yes,
behind what we do.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's such a good
like,
idea. Anytime you're having those doubts, I think it's something that, like, I know and do, as in, I have a testimonial, file, and they're all in there. And
mm-hmm.
it's interesting when you forget to go in there, or maybe you've been sitting
Yeah.
in your doubt and feeling like, oh, really, like,
Mm-hmm.
am I really as good at, or can I do this, or who am
Yeah.
I to talk about that, or all of that stuff, the old imposter. At those moments, that should be like the little
Mm-hmm.
trigger to be like, go and just read your testimonials. Take 1 minute and just read
Mm-hmm.
some, because it's so interesting. Like, when you do read them, the different feeling that you get, like this sense of like empowerment, no, I do belong, and
Mm-hmm.
belonging, and wow, I really can. I now believe in myself and I trust myself. You can trust your decisions. You can get out of that place of indecision that you,
Right. And I feel like for me, it's like I made a difference for this
mm,
business. Like what we did as our skills,
yes,
our expertise, and our knowledge has really made a credible difference for this business. And that is what keeps me
yeah.
motivated. And so, yeah, just I would encourage all of your listeners, reread your
Yeah.
testimonials.
Yeah.
Do it.
Make sure you've got a testimonial
It
folder,
helps.
file. It's somewhere that you
Yeah.
can like just literally click open it and read them at any point in time.
Especially when you're having one of those
Yeah.
bummers of a day and you're like everything's going wrong. No,
Mm.
seriously. Sometimes we need that, especially as
Yeah.
women. We tend to be a bit more emotional. And so, reading things that are actually like concrete
Yes.
and real examples of how you've made a difference, it can
Yeah,
help.
exactly. And, like, just on that as well, a lot of the time people think, well, I've got to, market myself and talk about myself. It's like, you actually don't really. Like, I think the most powerful marketing is talking about your clients and talking and sharing this stuff, because that in itself is the proof. That is the proof of what it is that you can do. That
Mm-hmm.
is what people are interested in, because they can put themselves in those shoes. Like, I always think it's the most shallow form of marketing for people just to talk about their own results and their own self and what they've done. It's like, yeah, interesting, but how have you helped other people? Like, could you help me? And that's what the people are
Mhm.
thinking. So it's good to know your testimonials, and know your client stories, and obviously being able to, reading them and being so familiar with them means that it just feels far more natural to be able to talk about them as well. Like, oh, yes, well,
Mhm.
I've got a client that, or I remember one time we were working on this project and
Mhm.
this happened and blah, 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 blah. Like, you can use them in so many different ways. They don't always just have to be like a static testimonial
Oh
on a
yeah.
page as well. But yeah.
Well, yeah, and the hallmark of great marketing is problem solving. So what problems do you
Mm,
solve? Because people are looking for help, whether you're buying something on Amazon or
yeah.
you're,
Yeah.
you know, shopping for a new
Hmm.
outfit. You're looking to solve a
Hmm.
problem, whatever that is, and especially in professional services, you have to be really in tune to the specific problems that you solve for your
Yeah.
clients. So, not in a general sense anymore either. You have to really be in tune to what are they looking for and what keeps them up at night.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Now, you were talking a moment before about client satisfaction, and, that's sort of like that need, or it's almost, I think we're partly born like that, creative people. But then, so funny story. I remember when one of my first jobs ever, I worked at McDonald's when I was a teenager, and I was literally just legal to work. I got a job there, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember it just being so much about the customer. Like, can you serve the customer in under 1 minute? Smile, this and that, and there were all of these like rules that we had to follow to make a
Mm-hmm.
good experience. And then I think that goes into hospitality. It goes into, and a lot of us tend to work those sort of jobs when you're young, when you're at university, like that, because they're, they
Mm-hmm.
work, right? They work with your schedule. And anyway, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, that almost even like trains you into this culture of over delivering. And yeah, talk
Yeah.
about that, because I think that, the people pleaser as well, it's like the client satisfaction. Where does it become, I'm exceeding expectations, I'm focused on client satisfaction, and where does it cross over into over delivering to the point where
Yeah.
it's beyond? Like, how do you, because I'm sure as a creative, I know I am not a designer myself, but having been on the hiring side and worked with a lot of designers, you could literally have clients that
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure who could come back and have asked you to change it for like 10, 20 times. And like, oh, now I don't like
Yeah.
that. Oh, now we want to add that. And it just keeps on going.
Well, I don't know if you see this sign back here. It says
Oh,
good
yeah.
enough.
Okay.
And that's a
Mm-hmm.
reminder to myself, that sometimes good enough is good
Mm-hmm.
enough. Because I am a perfectionist, and it's kind of like the law of diminishing returns. You could put in, 120% effort. It's not going to get you anywhere. You need to be confident enough to send that first draft and get it back for critique, and work through
Yeah.
those issues. And sometimes for creatives, we kill ourselves to deliver. I want this to be perfect the first
Mm.
time around. That's a self-imposed that's self-imposed
Mm-hmm.
nonsense. Uh, I believe that creative should be collaborative, and the best results we've gotten for our clients is when they've been more involved,
Right.
not when we're force feeding
Yeah,
them
or you've
something.
waited until you've got it so perfect. But then
Yeah.
what happens if they don't like it? Like, I can imagine there's like the either the extreme high of like, oh, they love it and how great that feels, but then
Hmm.
there's also the fear of like, what if they don't like it?
Yeah. I mean, it's happened.
Mhm.
Believe me, I have been on the receiving end of some dissatisfied clients, but that's the first
Yeah.
draft. As long as there's an understanding of, hey, you know what? This is our first try. You're not happy. Here, tell me why. That's part of the process. I need to understand why so I can relay that to our team
Mm.
so we can get better the second time
Yeah.
around. And it always ends up working out. It doesn't feel good in the moment, because of that people pleasing nature, and your work is your worth, and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's not a great feeling, but as long as you can resolve it and as long as you can come to an understanding with your client of where things got lost in
Mm.
translation, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, and I think that's such a like really great message to all of us. Is that if you just put something out there when it is what I like to call MVP, minimum viable product. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it is
I love
your
that.
first, it's just like it's good and it works.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have everything on
Yep.
it. And, so many times I'm like, this has served
Mm-hmm.
so well. It's hard because I also was a perfectionist. I've got two perfectionist parents. I grew up in an environment where it was
Mm-hmm.
always never good enough and always striving to be more. And it's
Uh,
something I had to literally learn, was that if I work that long and to get it to perfect, it's still never perfect anyway. Like, what is perfect? Nothing ever is. You can always improve on everything. It's a
it's a
moving
moving
target.
target.
And it just means that it
Yeah.
takes far longer to get anything out there and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And often your view on what's perfect is far different to what other people's is. So it was like being
Yes.
able to kind of go with this, like, well, MVP, this is good enough. I love like your sign there. Get it
Mm-hmm.
out there,
Mm-hmm.
get feedback. And I think from a designer
Yeah.
point of view, like if you are that person who's a people pleaser and a perfectionist, which I think,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of go hand in hand, that's you're striving
Mm-hmm.
for people to be pleased, and that leads into needing to be perfect so that they're pleased. And I think that they're almost
Mm-hmm.
just so joined in most of us, that it can
Mm-hmm.
feel like, well, if it's not perfect, they're not going to be pleased, and so you're actually, your subconscious is almost pulling you away from doing it because of this fear of like what would happen if they're not pleased, right? But if you go, hey, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not actually setting any expectation that they will be pleased on the first draft, because what we're doing is we're just going, have we captured your thoughts properly? And here is this first thing, the MVP. The,
Mm-hmm.
the point of this is to go, are we on the same page? Are we going in the right direction? And is this good?
Yep.
And it is super rough. And we can take our perfection out of it and our people pleasing out of it, because this isn't the finished product. So you can kind of squash those little personas in your head a little bit
Yeah.
and go, and I'm sure that's what you do, right? That's your creative process.
I have learned to do that. No, I mean it has to be
Yeah.
learned when you are a perfectionist, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable putting something out there saying, "Well, this is really
Mm.
rough, but I want you to see it anyway." But it's so helpful because it really it simplifies the
Mm-hmm.
process. It gets everyone to be sold on the final result because they felt like they're a part of
Yes.
it, instead of, well, here you
Yeah.
go. This is it.
That's right. Yeah,
You
and think
know?
about all the time that you would have spent in making it perfect, and then to share it with them the first time and them
Yeah.
to go, "Oh, no, that wasn't what we're thinking at all." You'd just be like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
And then that turns
Yeah.
into, from a creative business point of view, it becomes not a profitable way to run your business because of the time that you've spent in it.
No.
And when we take
Yeah.
this lesson and learning, like, where else can you apply this in your business? I often say to my clients, like, don't build the whole course or program or whatever it is before you put it out
Mm-mm.
there, because what if it's not quite right? What if your positioning sucks? What if you're
Mm-hmm.
actually talking about something that isn't what's on their mind? You might see it because you've got that context, you have the vision and you know what the outcome is. But if they're not actually
Mm-hmm.
seeing it from their point of view, then it's pointless talking about it. And the only real way to get that feedback is to test it. So I'm often like,
Yeah.
do the MVP, like put something out there, see, are you getting a response? Are you getting interest? You can even sell something and build it as you go. And I have so many people going to me, oh, I could
Yeah.
never do that. I'm like, you just stay ahead of the game. Like, think about how you could
Yeah.
manage it. Think about the time that you need in order to have the things for them at the right time. It's not going to detract from their experience. It's actually going to be more beneficial for you because you're getting live feedback as you go. And you can be like, oh, I really need to
Right.
add this in, or I need to adjust that, or maybe I need a little step in, this is going to be a big jump for people. And the number of
Yeah.
times you can get so surprised at at how much time someone else needs to grasp something that you think is quite simple. I'm sure that you get that experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially when it comes to tech, we've had some cautionary tales of clients that have gone against our best
Mm-hmm.
advice and have done a full build out of a major, major new product and website and features and calculators and custom this, custom everything, only to find out that's not what the market wants.
Oh, goodness.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you have to roll it all back and start over.
Yeah.
So, especially if you're trying something new, yeah, the messy first draft, the crappy first
Yeah.
draft, put it out there. See what
Yeah.
people think. Hey, is this something you'd buy?
Yep.
You know? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's right. It's like,
seriously.
think of it like your sketch. Like, okay, I've got this masterpiece in
Yeah.
mind and it's in my brain, but
Yeah.
first of all, I'm just going to sketch it out really rough in pencil and put it out and see, okay, is this actually going to turn into the
Yeah.
masterpiece? Get that
Yeah.
feedback.
Yeah, I mean, one client, we built this whole giant architecture for their website. We advised them not to go that route, and then they found out that their target audience is senior citizens. They weren't keen on using,
Yeah.
online tools and calculator. They just wanted a phone
Oh,
number.
wow.
So,
How did they like that
yeah,
is so interesting. Like they found out their target audience is senior citizens. Like, how did they have a product before they knew who their target audience was? That to me boggles my mind. Like, aren't you building something because you know who the audience is?
well, it was a like a managed service, like a home services
Mhm.
type business. So they were sure of the geographical reach, but they weren't sure of the
Oh my
demographic
goodness.
reach.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was a research problem as well. But the main point of this whole conversation with them is let's just put up a landing
Yeah.
page. That's what we wanted to do, and get people to raise their hands and say,
Yeah,
"Yeah, that sounds great. I want that." And you can do that with a single page and a phone
exactly.
number.
Yeah.
Or if you want to get real fancy, you can have a contact form.
Exactly. Like it's
Super
like
fancy.
you actually to even have a web footprint at all. One page can actually do you so
Yep.
well for however long. Like
Yep.
why build out a whole website if you literally just need a place to say, "Hey, this is what I do and here's how to contact me." Like start simple.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes
Yes.
especially if you've worked in businesses and you've worked, I've worked in some huge, huge companies, global organizations with like
Hmm.
hundreds of websites and all of this stuff. And so, like,
Hmm.
when you're working in things of that scale, then you go to start your own business. I think sometimes you don't stop to think, okay, I don't need to have all of this stuff at that level because
Yeah.
I'm not a global organization with hundreds of thousands of staff. I
No.
have, me. And I know that sounds so obvious and simple, but it's funny how many people think I need to have these things because I'm now a business.
Yes.
And I've loved how we can make it so simple. Like you say, the number of times I'm like, hey, you you can start online without a website. You can then put up a one page and just capture
Hmm.
people's details or interests. Like all you need is a way for them to contact you, a way to know that you exist. If you bought the domain name, stick a,
Yep.
you might as well stick a page up if you've got the domain. Like, why not? Just put your main message on it. Like, what is it
Hmm.
that you do and who are you? Um, you can
Hmm.
add, like, that's the beautiful thing. I mean, you must love it being a creative. The digital, I reckon, once we've gone online, it became so much easier for people in creative because now things aren't going to print. It doesn't literally have to be perfect. Like, obviously, you want everything to
Yes.
work functionally, but oh, there's a typo. Cool. I can go on and change that and I can adjust that. And now we can add
Hmm.
this bit in. And you have this ability to evolve it constantly. And that means that you can go live
Yeah.
with your minimum.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think there's still an expectation. Consumers, we've gotten pretty
Mm-hmm.
impatient. We're impatient on the consumer end of things too. We expect things to work
Yeah.
perfectly every single time. We expect things to be
Mm.
fast and flawless when it comes to our tech. And that's a tough lesson for our clients to learn. is the nature of tech. And you and I were talking about updates, and you know, you do an update, it breaks something else, or
Yes.
you know, like that's the nature of the beast. And a lot of people are still super uncomfortable with
Yeah.
that. They expect it to be like print, where once you send it to the printer,
It's
it's
done.
done
Yeah.
forever.
Project done. Tick. Move on to the
Yeah.
next thing. I'm like, no, no, your
Yeah.
website is like you've
Yeah.
literally birthed like a baby and you now need to look after
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
You need to feed
Yes, it's a
it
living,
and care
breathing
for
thing.
it. And if you don't, then it will not be good in a year's time.
And it will never move out of your house
It
either.
will
You will
it's
have
the
it
child that
forever.
be with you forever. It always needs nurturing.
Yeah. Yes,
That's so funny.
it does.
But I
It
think we
does.
have this
Yeah.
funny expectation, not only that of like, oh, that is now done, move on, which
Mm-hmm.
now it's literally not like that almost with anything in business. But also, like, we expect things to just work. And I think because we have this
Yes.
experience as people and consumers where, you know, you pick up your iPhone and it's got all these apps on it and
Mm-hmm.
things just work and it's really funky. And, you know, every now and then there are little things that are like, oh, that's not as, you know, that's a little bit annoying or that's a bit
Mm-hmm.
clunky. But you just kind of expect the technology to work. And I think one of the main things, like when you actually have the technology and it's in your business, it does not just work because it's there. Like there's a lot that goes on in the background
Mm-hmm.
that makes it
Mm-hmm.
seamless, which is why I think having someone who really understands the tech and the design. I've seen so many times where there's
Mm-hmm.
been someone has done a design like you know, in Photoshop or whatever, like a design program,
Oh.
and then the
Mm-hmm.
developers have got it and then they've like put it together and there hasn't been a lot of synchronicity between the tech and the design.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, I'd love you to speak a little bit about you know, this piece of you actually almost designing with the technology in mind, like, and how you can
Yeah.
avoid some of those pitfalls.
Yeah. I mean, I started my career as a print designer, and I am self-taught in web
Mm-hmm.
development. So I felt that in order to deliver a great web-based product, I needed to see
Yeah.
under the hood. I needed to know how it worked. Um, I am not a coder by any stretch, but I know enough to be dangerous because I felt that I needed to understand exactly how we're going to get this design from Figma or Sketch or Photoshop back in
Yeah.
the day into actual working
Yeah.
code. And so I think that gives our team a bit of an advantage because I know how to make things work. I know what's feasible, what's
Yes. Mm.
sensible, as far as clients will ask us for something that it just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense, or there's a better way
Yeah.
to do it. And so to be able to educate the client on, okay, yeah, I understand what you want this to do, but here's a better way to look
Yeah.
at it. Or this might be more cost effective. So there has to be a balance between aesthetics and functionality.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. And you were just reminding me of back in the early 2000s when there was a real trend for Flash websites. Do you remember that? And like
Yes.
it was all about
Oh,
how
yes.
fancy this thing would look. And they were just a nightmare to use. And it was like we'd lost
Yes.
all sense of a website needs to be functional. If people can't navigate to the
Mm-hmm.
page or find the pages, it is irrelevant that they're there. Like, but there was
Yeah.
this, like, I remember it went on for a few years, and so many times, you know, people were just more impressed by, like, wow, look at what I can make this menu do all these fancy things, and it would be like it would move on
Mm-hmm.
the page. So it was really hard to even click on it to open
Yeah, you
something.
have to chase it
And it was this
around.
whole thing of everything
Yeah.
was very custom. And there was a
Mm-hmm.
big discussion that I used to have with, you know, the people who I worked for, that I'd say to them, we can do that. We can go custom, but the more custom we
Mm-hmm.
go, the harder and more expensive this is going to be for you because of all the reasons. Like, it's going to take longer. It might
Sure.
sound good, but then actually
Yeah.
building it and getting it to work is going to take far longer. And then all the updates and everything that you do, there's like this huge negative part of it being so customized. And I know that's something you would
Mm-hmm.
like. How much is that still an issue today? And for you
Mm-hmm.
being someone who's obviously people pleaser, I know a lot of creatives and people listening, we a lot of us we're people pleasers. So clients asking
Mm-hmm.
like, can we do this? Or here's what I want. And your tendency is probably like, how can I deliver that for them? Um, where do you balance? How
Yeah.
do you balance that?
I, I
Yeah.
think I think the first question I ask when anything is brought to us is, okay, tell me why. Tell me
Mm.
why you want
Hmm.
this. There's been a massive push in websites to include animations now,
Okay.
like scrolling animations. When you scroll down the page, there's like movement of the background, different layers of the page moving around, and it's very cool and it's neat.
Just
But
like the
if your
websites.
audience is predominantly on their
Mm.
phones as opposed to a
Yep.
desktop, that's not even going to exist. So why are we going to spend time on these animations that are just going to bog down the page and won't even show up on mobile?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really breaking it down to what's the best use of your
Mm.
budget, your timeline, and what do your customers
Yeah.
expect? Do they care about this? Doubtful. So it's really prioritizing, weighing those things. And sometimes they'll say, "Well, I want it." And okay, yeah, fine. It's going to delay the launch,
Yes.
but fine, we can do
Yeah.
that. But I always like to ask why
Mm.
first, because a lot of times there isn't a reason and it would just be blowing up their budget. And that's not good for
Yeah,
anybody.
exactly. And, I'd like to just touch on that for a moment, like the difference between, and especially for people who have a service based business, the client saying, this is what I want. And you often tendency is, well, okay, this is how we deliver it. So they're customizing everything to
Mm-hmm.
then taking that shift into, well, this is what they want, but I'm the expert. So how can I then
Mm-hmm.
guide them or say, well, this is how we do it and why? So that then you can kind of get to a really good outcome, because I'm sure that that actually also has a real impact then on the end satisfaction that they have. Because even though they might have said they
Oh
want
yeah.
something in the first place, like it can turn into a negative experience for them if you literally just try to
Yeah.
deliver it without.
And sometimes they'll say they want
Mm-hmm.
something, but they're really not talking about that exact
Mm-hmm.
thing. When you get right down to it, unless you understand okay, well, do you like this whole website, or what do you like about this? And maybe it's just the colors, or maybe it's just the fonts. But if you had taken them at their word and they said copy this website, it wouldn't
Yeah.
have been the best result. Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I did that once. I remember with a designer where I've gone, this website's really cool, use it for inspiration. And they literally coded it like exact. And I went, okay, I didn't say I wanted
Yes.
that website. I said, like, take that for inspiration, but use it in my brand. And I clearly was not explicit enough in my instruction, which
Well,
is fine.
or they should have asked, well, what do you like about this
Yeah,
website?
yeah,
And you could have talked through it
yeah.
and maybe not gone down the road of copycat
They were like, I'm
uh,
going to do exactly what she
template.
says, and I'm coding that to the
Yeah.
to the letter. But that's fine. And
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about, and the really great thing, and I think this also helps you to shift into that personal power place, right? That you're saying is when you actually then stand in your space as an expert. And although the client is the
Mm-hmm.
client, they're paying you because of your expertise, right? So it's like, how can you help guide them to making some really good
Mm-hmm.
decisions that, maybe you're coming to together and then that's their final agreement. But, that to me, I feel is what you've described there is such a big difference between taking a brief and delivering it versus taking a brief and going, okay, let's work through this, and this is how we do it and why, and let's get them to an outcome that's going to be actually probably better for them in the end, but also better for you
Mm-hmm.
because it'll be a good,
Yeah.
when their result is good, it's obviously a great reflection on your business too.
Right. And even if they give us a brief or a description of what they
Mm-hmm.
want, we always, number one, talk to them about it, but also rewrite it in our words, in our
Mm.
understanding of what is to be
Mm-hmm.
delivered and what the best process is for delivering it, and kind of walking them through that and helping them see, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense
Mm.
to do it this way. And if we don't use all these custom tools or plugins, we can have something that we can manage on our own. And
Yeah.
so, like I said earlier in the conversation, there's a lot more
Yeah.
ownership of the end results that way.
Mm. Now, I've got a question for you because I know from knowing and being also a perfectionist and a bit of a people pleaser,
Mm-hmm.
when people ask you to do something and they're like, oh, well, we want this and we want that, your tendency is to try to do it all and deliver what they've asked. What what would you say, or what have you experienced in, over the 20 years that you've been running your agency and design? Like, how can you see a difference that has changed from the start to now in terms of what you do say
Mm-hmm.
yes to? Yeah. And how
Yeah.
you manage
I mean,
that?
I think when anyone starts their own business, you will take just about anything that comes your
Hmm.
way just to get the experience, and that's great. That is the perfect place to be when you're first
Hmm.
starting out, because you need to find out what you actually enjoy
Mm.
doing, and you need to find out, especially when it comes to creative, like what do you deliver best for your clients. And we used to build websites on all different
Mm.
platforms, like Squarespace and Wix and WordPress
Hmm.
and Go High Level, and it's too much. It's too much. So we decided to focus solely on
Hmm.
WordPress. And that's our lane, but that's our lane of
Yes.
expertise. So it allows us to be the experts at what we're delivering for our
Yeah.
clients. And so being clear on where you're strongest
Mm.
is super important in the evolution of your business, because you're not going to be excellent at
No,
everything.
exactly. Yeah.
So don't.
You're going to know
Don't
that,
try
like, you
me.
guys would know WordPress so well. It would just make it so much faster.
Yes.
And your websites, I'm sure, have far less bugs and issues because of the level
Yes.
of knowledge. But I know that there's a person there going, oh, but what if you get someone that comes along and they have a different website platform, or they already have it, or they know that they want a website in a certain platform? That fear rises up, right? But what if I don't say yes and don't take that client on? Does that mean I'm
Yeah.
losing out on a job? What have you found as the actual reality of making that decision, which is a powerful one to make and very scary for a lot of people, I know, like to say
Oh
this is what
yeah.
we do and we don't do these other things. But what have you
Yeah.
found as the actual result of doing that? Like, has it been a positive move for you?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
100%. Um, because it allows us to focus where we're strongest. And rather than when I think about, like, how much time would it take me to get up to speed on building on
Mm-hmm.
Squarespace again? I don't even know. I don't know, because they have their own like language and way of doing things. It's completely
Yes.
different.
Mm.
So are we best equipped to meet that need for our client? No,
No.
we're not. But I do know some people. And so we've also established referral
Mm.
partners where they're experts at Squarespace. That's cool because they don't do
Yeah.
WordPress. So it works out better for everyone, because then I think about, well, would the client be
Mhm.
happy with us building this in a platform we're not
Exactly.
comfortable on?
No.
No. No.
Absolutely not. And that's the thing. Like, it's like when you do decide you're specializing in an area, a lot of people look at that as like, oh, that means less and less opportunity. It's actually like, no, it actually means
Mm-hmm.
more opportunity, because do you think that your clients want to hire someone who does a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of everything? Or do you think they're looking for someone who's like, no, these guys really know their stuff? And whether we're talking about
Yeah.
website building, whether we're talking about,
Yeah.
you know, like health advice, personal training, life coaching,
Mm-hmm.
business advice, it's like you don't want to hire someone who's really experienced in e-commerce to advise you on your coaching service business, because they're totally different. Like, the strategies that you use for products and mass market is not the same
Oh
that you
yeah.
would use for a consulting or coaching style business. So it's like when you are trying to be something for everyone, you're actually being less, you're not the obvious choice anymore. You're just like one of the people
Right.
possibilities, but they're not going to be drawn to you because you're not clearly that person who's like, this is what I do and this is what you need. There's that really strong match.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard to take that leap. It took us a while to take that
Mm,
leap because we did feel like there was that
yeah.
fear of missing out, especially during COVID when everything was shutting down. You start to question, oh gosh, well, if I don't take this project, what's
Hmm.
that going to amount to for the business? And I know a lot of businesses struggled with that as well.
Yeah.
You have to weigh adapting to the environment and the economic
Yeah.
situation versus sticking to your guns and saying, no, this is not the best
Hmm.
result for our client. And so that's kind of the lens that I try to look at
Yeah.
all business decisions through. Am I the best, are we the best team to solve this particular client's
Yeah.
problem? And if we're not, I am totally fine sending them to someone who
Yeah.
is.
And that is one of the hardest things to do. But I think I have never
Mm-hmm.
heard of anyone who's stepped into that space and then has found it to be the worst thing that they did. Like, I have got so many
Yeah.
stories of people who are like, as soon as I said, this is what I do, and I started saying no to the stuff that didn't really fit, they were like, I got an
Mm-hmm.
influx of people who really were the great fit for me and exactly the type of client I want to work with. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's the whole point of why we do this, is why we get you so clear on
Yeah.
your specialization that you are suddenly talking to the right people. And it's almost like putting your brand up in lights in terms of this is who we are and what we do. People suddenly can know you. They can know you for what you do rather than it
Yeah.
just being a business.
And isn't it, I mean, like for your clients, isn't it easier for them to explain what they do?
100%. It's like I say
I
to them,
mean,
and the funny thing is, no one knows it until they've done it. So you would know because you've done this, but
yeah,
you're like, once you get super clear, everything else is suddenly
yeah,
like so easy. You're like, I know exactly what I'm going to say. I've got content coming out of my ears and my
yeah,
mouth, and I'm like, I'm overflowing with it, and I know what to offer.
yeah.
Because before they'd be like, I'll just offer my time, or I've got these, they've kind of got these random vague offerings. Sometimes even go, I've got a program.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, sort of. It's not really,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's not specific. And when it's specific, it's because
Mm-hmm.
you know the outcome, and you can't know the outcome you're going to deliver if you've got 10 different people in mind that you're trying to serve and they're all different. Like, you're trying to
Yeah.
make that into one outcome. That's why it's not working. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard. It's not easy to do, but
And if it's easy, like it's easier for them to explain it, think about the people who are
yes,
hearing that message then.
exactly.
It clicks, right? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, if it's easy for you to say, it's easy for people to
Yeah.
understand, and then you become known as the go-to team or person or coach or whoever
Mm,
it is for that particular
yeah.
thing. So, but it is scary. I'm not saying it's not, because it is.
No,
But
it's scary.
when you finally do make that decision, it,
Mm.
it does pay
Well, I
off.
find sometimes people need to try doing it the way they do it, which is why I'm like, always, if you've been in business for more than a year and you've got a client here or there, and then you're just getting
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, you're like, why is this not getting easier? Why are people not knowing me? I'm like, the hidden gem. That's when it's like, okay, now it's time to do this. And yes, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to have to feel like you're cutting some things off. You're actually just opening up the door of opportunity. But it is like
Mm-hmm.
a transformation. Like,
It's
you literally
scary.
have to you've got to shed some of these old things, parts of you, to allow the new bit to
Mm-hmm.
evolve. I like to think of it like the caterpillar and the butterfly. It's like you're the caterpillar coming
Yeah.
in, you put yourself in this cocoon, we literally break it all apart and then put it all back together as the new part that can fly. And
Yeah.
now you can fly. And it's like, wow, now I'm so light and easy.
And there's freedom. There's
Mm,
also freedom in saying no to things that are not the right fit,
yes.
because ultimately it's going to be better for everyone if you say
Yeah.
no. And then just having, like, work after they work with you, having that confidence to say, yeah, this is not what we do. Um, but I think sometimes you definitely have to put in the work
Yeah.
first and have a coach lead you through that process. I know I
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah, it's very hard to do on your own and in your own echo chamber. Or, people now ask ChatGPT, and
mhm.
I'm like, ChatGPT is literally just
Oh
going to tell
gosh.
you what you want to hear. So if you're asking it for this kind of advice, it is going to reflect back to you what you're already putting in, which is just going to be more of the same of where you already are.
I
They're going to
love
be,
it.
yes,
That's
you can
amazing.
absolutely combine those two things or three or four things into one. That's such a great idea.
Yeah.
And it's going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. So good luck. Good luck
Mm-hmm.
if you're using that.
Mm-hmm.
I always say. Oh, so
Yeah.
good. Michelle, we
Yeah.
could honestly talk for ages. I know we like touched
I
on so
know.
many topics here, and that's what
I can't believe it's
I
almost been an
know.
hour.
I
That's
know.
crazy.
And I think, for the sake of you, you're at the end of your day. I appreciate the amount of time that you spent with us sharing, and we
Yeah,
have
it's been
scratched the surface,
great.
but maybe we'll come back and do another one another time and talk about another topic. So much
I'd
to
love
share
that.
the world of business
Yeah.
when you've been there for
Yeah.
so long. How can people reach out and find out more about you, connect with you if they are thinking, well, I need
Yeah.
a WordPress whiz or someone to actually help me reimagine my brand and how
Yeah.
this is actually going to
Yeah.
be through my website and how it looks?
The best way to find out more about me is actually through my
Mm-hmm.
newsletter. It's mymondaymantra.com. It'll be in the show
Mm-hmm.
notes, I'm sure. But that it's my creative outlet for sharing the business wisdom that I've learned along this
Mm.
journey, marketing, design, tech, just navigating the changes that are constantly going on. It's a weekly newsletter, and then we combine that with my love of board games. So it's kind of neat that way.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely check out the newsletter. And I'm actually going to provide a free website audit for your listeners as well. So you can include that in
Wow.
the show
Thank
notes.
you. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just a downloadable that they can work on their
Mm-hmm.
own time to figure out where their website might be costing them those premium opportunities. Because people are super quick to judge, super quick to evaluate. And if you're not sending the right message or the right
Yeah.
signals, they're just going
Yeah.
to bounce. And so it's a downloadable
Mm-hmm.
PDF that they can actually take a look at their own website and see if it passes the premium
Oh,
client test.
great. That is so useful because I think everyone probably looks at their own website and goes, oh, it's okay. But you see all the things that you probably think aren't great, but maybe you're not actually seeing the things that could make the biggest impact. That's like, well, these things
Yeah.
don't really matter. That's just
Yeah.
personal preference and that's you. The stuff that does matter are these other items, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a
Oh,
scorecard in there so you can
fantastic.
see how you rank on
Mm.
different credibility checks that we do in a professional audit
Wow.
sense. So
Yeah,
just a little
that sounds
taste. Yeah.
amazing. What a great resource. Definitely download that. Have a look at your own website, what you learn from it.
Yeah.
Even if you take away one thing from that, that's going to be
Sure.
of absolute value. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's very generous of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to your listeners for giving us this time and really appreciate it. Look forward to the next
absolutely.
one.
Thanks, Michelle. Are you struggling to find quality clients these days? Well, in this world of instant gratification and abundance of AI produced content, it may be feeling harder than ever to attract the sort of clients who really value your expertise, are ready to show up, ready to commit and invest in getting the results that they actually want. But it's not just about guessing, and it's not about just creating more content hoping that something sticks. There is some specific things that you can do and need to have in your business in order to attract those sort of clients. And I'm sharing them with you in my training, my free training called The Magnetic Formula. So go and grab yourself a seat for this free class and let me show you what are these 5 key things you need to have in your business so that you end up with a stream of committed, high quality clients who are ready to invest, who help you have a very thriving, flourishing business that earns you over 6 figures a year, and you do it all in very easy part-time hours. Head over to jessicaosborne.com/TMF or drop below into the show notes, click on the link and grab yourself a seat for this free training while it still exists. I'll see you there.